Chapter 35. Let Them Stay. What's the November deadline? I asked Luca that night. He was sitting up at the table with Pop, a calculator and our bills spread out in front of them. They both looked more tired than I'd seen them for a long time. Where did you hear about that? I leant against the back of a chair, shrugged my shoulders. They said it on the news just now, but they didn't really explain. Luca nodded. Well, the deadline is how long our government has agreed to let the refugees stay here in Australia. But what if they can't go back, or don't want to? Luca rubbed his eyes with one hand and then gestured for me to come over. When I got close enough, he wrapped an arm around my middle and gave me a half hug. We've been thinking about that, us volunteers, and we're putting a petition together asking for a deadline to be extended or rejected entirely. I tried to picture Nora returning to a house made of rubble, like the ones that had been on TV. I tried to picture her bringing a baby to a place like that, and then I wondered what little kids like Mejame and Arta would do. Will it work? Luca shrugged. The premiers in Tasmania and South Australia are also asking the Prime Minister to let them stay, so we'll see what he has to say. Pop gathered some of the mail that was spread at the end of the table. Then he pushed the stack over to me. Here, Fred. If you're going to sit, you're going to help. Look for any address to me and sort them into a pile, would you? Luca patted my back and urged me to take a seat at the table. We worked quietly. Just the sound of rustling paper. As my mind ticked over deadlines and rubbled houses, I came across a heavy little booklet, all glossy and wrapped in plastic, with an illustration of a village on the front cover and Pop's name stickered on the outside. What's the Oliver's Hill Retirement Village? I asked, reading the swirly title. Pop looked up and then away quickly when he saw what I was holding. Luca frowned while he stared at the booklet. Jeff? Luca started to ask, pausing his jabbing at the calculator to turn to Pop, who shrugged in response. Look, I don't know. You turned 70, and suddenly you're on all these nuisance mailing lists. He huffed. Just chuck it, Fred, straight in the bin. I turned the booklet back around. Can I open it? Pop shrugged again. Those skid off blade-os. I started flipping through the glossy pages, looking at line drawings and colourful images of triangle-roofed houses, all in a row. There were no photos, just sketches and illustrations. I don't get it. What is this place? Is it real? Luca paused his calculating again to wave me to pass him the booklet. Looks like it's not built yet, he said, flicking through the pages. But they're taking offers from those who want to move in from the year 2001 onwards. Luca frowned down at what he was reading. But it's not an actual, real place yet on a map that you can go and visit, I asked again. Yes, it's a real place, a village, they call it, Pop said. But it's not a real village. It's a community, Fred. That's the point. Pop sighed, and then he waved his hand in the air, pointing somewhere behind him. Gotta be out Frankston way. I thought you were just on the nuisance mailing list, Luca said suddenly, making me look up at him and frown. Sounds like you've studied up on the place. Frankston was 2 hours away by bus. It was the closest thing to the city that we had on the Mornington Peninsula before heading into the real thing in Melbourne. Why would Pop want to move to a place that didn't even exist yet, but would be further away from us than the RRC was? What's the point? I started to ask, but Pop let out a sigh of frustration and snatched the open booklet right out of Luca's hands. Jeff, what is the problem? He said so quietly it made the skin on the back of my neck tingle. Pop shook his head angrily, staring at the table. It's by mail addressed to me, and I say we're done talking about it, okay? And he shoved the booklet to the end of the table, but he didn't bin it like he told me to. Geez, Jeff, if you just... Luca started to say, but Pop lifted his head to give Luca one clear shake, and I thought I saw his eyes bounce to me and then away. Luca sighed and ran a hand over his face, like he could smooth his frown away. He turned to me. Why don't you go and get ready for bed, Fredo? Jeff and I will stay up and finish all this. I opened my mouth, but Pop cut me off. You heard your father, he said, and I pushed my chair back a little more forcefully than I needed to, then mumbled good night to the two of them. Just as I got to my room, I heard Luca roughly whisper, Is there anything you want to tell me? I stood in my doorway, waiting for Pop's reply, but instead he called, Good night, Winifred, like he knew I was waiting and listening. When I closed my door, I couldn't hear any more, and never knew what Pop's reply was.